Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Paul Dottino. The phone number for you, and we're going to get to your calls early and often today, folks. We'll try to rapid fire through them and get to as many as we can at 201-939-4513. If you want a full analysis of the Giants selecting Malik Nabers with the 6th overall pick, I suggest you go to the Giants YouTube channel, Giants.com, the Giants app, or the Giants Huddle podcast feed. You can find our Giants draft show from last night where we talk about Nabers, we take a bunch of calls, but we'll do a quick synopsis of it here, Paul. And this is not going to be anything you haven't already heard from us about Malik Nabers. One, he's one of the youngest players in the draft class, not even 21 years old yet. He is the most explosive player in the draft class at any position. Dynamite with the ball in his hands. He can get deep. He runs a varied route tree. He's got pretty good hands. He's got a good amount of polish. Just a really good offensive weapon that plays wide receiver that immediately becomes the guy other teams have to game plan on when they play the Giants on any given Sunday.
He's feisty, doesn't shy away from contact, makes big plays, can play any of the wide receiver positions. You could actually put him at the X, Y, or the Z, to be frank with you. And I think that versatility and flexibility was one of the things that attracted him to the coaching staff. As much as I was a big Rome Odunze guy, he's an X and possibly a big slot in some instances.
Yep.
Not as much versatility or as flexibility as Nabers provides. And I think that between Kafka and Dable and their offensive minds and their schemes, you could certainly draw a very strong case for why he's a better fit for their system and their playbook.
Of the players in this draft class, Paul, just a couple numbers I want to throw at you. First, the basic stats: 89 catches, 1,570 yards last year, 18-yard average per catch, 14 touchdowns, 5 drops. So nothing alarming there in terms of drop numbers. It's a lot of targets. No. I pulled a couple advanced numbers from Pro Football Focus to your point that he can play everywhere. Last year, Paul, he lined up outside 361 times. He lined up inside 358 times. So he did both almost equally. He was even in the backfield for 6 times. Now,
you find him everywhere on the tape.
Versatility.
He's everywhere.
Absolutely. Some of the other advanced numbers, he had the second most receptions that went for first downs in the draft class. 70? He had 70 first downs, which is ridiculous when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
He had 43 receptions of 15 yards or more, second most in the draft class. The only guy ahead of him in those two categories was Rome Odunze. There's a reason they were very close to each other on the board.
Mm-hmm.
He had more yards after contact than Odunze, but the third most in the draft class at 309. So that's not yards after catch. That's yards after contact,
right,
which shows his ability to break tackles. And then his 607 yards after catch were the 7th most in the draft class. But the trick is, you look at the guys ahead of him, they all have like average depth of targets of like 5 to 6 yards, while Nabers is, I think, 12 to 13. So a lot of the other guys are screen guys and stuff that catch those short passes and run. So they have a lot of yards after the catch because of the design of the play.
Mm-hmm.
But Nabers, the fact that he gets all these downfield balls and still has little yards after the catch, shows his ability. Again, we talk about his speed, that's great. His acceleration, his start-stop, his side-to-side quickness, his just general agility is off the charts for the ability to make people miss.
A couple of things to add, okay?
Yep.
The gear, which is what you said about start and stop, he's got that ability to slow down or stop and then immediately kick it into gear number 2 and shift, and boom, he's gone. Very, very important, obviously, to the way that Dable likes to run his offense with a lot of the short passes and get yak yardage. The strength part that I mentioned earlier is important to the yards after contact because this is a guy who will fight through a hand tackle. And that's what you'll see with him on tape. If you want to get him, you got to hit him. You got to really get him down. If you're just going to try to hand tackle him, first of all, he's so fast and so quick and so elusive, it's hard to get a good lick at him. So a lot of those yards after contact, to me, John, and I don't know how they grade it, okay? We never know how these analytics people will grade it. But for me, yards after contact, there's a lot of people trying to grab at him.
Oh, of course.
And he's breaking away from them.
Yeah.
Because he's got strength and the quicks, and they can't really get a good lick at him. That adds to that number.
And he runs a bunch of different routes, too. He has
No doubt.
He has a lot of deep stuff on his tape, but he runs a lot of crosses. He runs a lot of slants. He has some speed outs and outs on there, too. So there's a lot of different stuff on his tape. So I'll read one more thing, and I read one of these quotes from Bruce Feldman's great article on The Athletic from offensive coaches talking about Malik Nabers.
I saw that. It's a good article.
I read one last night. I'm going to read a second one today, just because I think they're all very powerful, and I think it gives fans an idea of how good this player might be. And then we'll jump into who the Giants might select here on day number 2, Paul. So this is what an offensive assistant coach told Bruce Feldman. It's Nabers, and then there's a gap. He is the best wide receiver in the draft in a couple of years, maybe more. He is Tyreek Hill, combined with both of those San Francisco guys, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. He is so explosive. He has a second gear. He can stop on a dime. He breaks tackles. You can't jam him because he's just too quick. And if you miss at the line, he's going to outrun you. He's really competitive, but he can be a pain in the butt. He'll be the guy who will have something to say to the coordinator coming off the field. He's got that edge to him where he doesn't know when to let up. He doesn't know that those guys are sometimes on his side. So that's the dog in him, right? That's kind of the positive and minus there, where you might get some of that, but he's such a competitor, which is something that Brian Dable and Joe Shane stretched. And I don't think that comes out of selfish desire. I think that comes out of trying to win football games and wanting to contribute on the field. So just some really good stuff, and just his natural ability is simply off the charts here, Paul.
Yeah, I called him feisty because that's how I describe it. He's not going to shy away from anybody. He wants to make plays, and he's going to have the will to make a play, even if you try to impede him. It's just that simple.
Yeah, he's a dog. DAWG.
There you go.
That's what he is, and you get all of that and more with a player like that. But he's special. All right, day 2 for the Giants here, Paul. Looking ahead, and I guess we can maybe give some other takes on the first round of the draft. Did you want a full first round review from all the teams? Go check out Draft Season. Tony Pauline and I recorded something around midnight last night and went up this morning. We do a full round one recap. If you want to go check that out, you should go check that out on Draft Season. But Paul, for today for the Giants now, they selected 47. They selected then pick 70. And I think you have to look at defense, and specifically in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm curious because there are some pretty darn good players still on the board here. Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jerzion Newton being the top 3. I imagine those will be the 3 of the first 5, 6, or 7 players off the board. I guess my question to you is, do you consider moving a pick later in this draft to move up to try to grab one of those guys? Because they're not getting to 47.
No, and that's the problem. I think that the Giants, because of the value and the neighborhood and their need, it's most likely that a corner is going to be the pick at 47. I looked at the list, and I figure right now, John, as it stands, between pick 33 and pick 47, I could make a case that the Giants would get a need value pick at corner for probably 6 of those players. The corner group right now, there should be a run on corners at some point early to the middle of this round. So the question becomes, which one of them is left when you're on the board? The other question becomes, what style of corner are you interested in?
Right.
And this is where I have a huge problem, because as I wrote this morning on Twitter when I indicated what I just talked about, I couldn't give any names to people, because if there's a half a dozen guys who I believe can be in that neighborhood, first of all, how many are going to be gone before 47? Because you got 14 picks. And some of these guys are gone. There's no doubt some of these guys are going before 47. The other question is, what does Coach Bowen, want to do with his corner? I'll give you a great example. Lassiter is a terrific cushion corner, zone corner. If you're looking for mirror man-to-man, you don't want him because he's running 4.6. And people will be scared by him, saying he doesn't have the speed, the quicks, or the mirror skills. So if that's what you wanted, like what the Giants wanted last year out of Tay Banks, you wouldn't touch Lassiter. But if you're good with playing off and playing zone, Lassiter at Georgia was extremely productive and would be a wonderful pick at 47.
And he can play inside too.
Yes, he can. So you see the dilemma that I have?
And there's also a number of slot and outside guys too, right? Like you have Mike Sanser still, you have Ennis Rakestraw, you have Max Melton.
Yeah.
Those are slot guys. Renardo Green can do both.
Tampa's an outside
You have
guy.
TJ Tampa, an outside guy. You have McKinstry and DeJean. Those are more outside. I don't people have talked about DeJean as a slot. I don't see that.
I don't think
see him
so
as an
either.
outside corner or a safety. Those are outside guys.
He might
So
wind up being a safety, though.
he could. Who knows?
That could happen.
But I would try him at corner and see if that works before
you always try. You always try.
Before you slide him over.
The,
So there are a lot of names in that mix.
Are you going in that neighborhood? You with me on that?
Picking corner?
And that there's likely to be value at 47 at corner? Are you with me or no? And you don't have to be.
I'm looking.
Okay. But we just named a half a dozen guys. And Melton from Rutgers is another guy who could possibly be there.
I have him as my 57th best player. I might have a safety ranked higher than a corner when we get to 47. Because right now, I'll just say how I have my guys ranked, right? I have...
Are you a bullet guy?
I have DeJean and McKinstry and Sanser still as my next 3 best defensive backs. Then I have Hicks and Bullard as my next 2. Then I have Green, Rakestraw, Newbin, Melton, Bishop. That's my next group. I'm not as big on Lassiter's 40 times scares the heck out of me. I just can't do it.
I get it.
4-6 corner.
I get it.
It's scary for me.
I get it.
So he's a third-round guy for me. And I know a lot of people love TJ Tampa. I didn't fall in love with this tape as much as other people did.
Understood.
And I think Andrew Phillips and then DJ James is in the category too in kind of early round 3.
See, what we just said explains it for you perfectly, folks, because once again, it's like the ice cream shop with the 42 flavors.
Yeah.
There are a ton of flavors here, and you can like any one of those flavors that you like and not be wrong.
Yeah, I've said it on a lot of the huddles. I had a lot of trouble sorting through the second and third round corners and ranking them and separating them. I didn't fall in love with any of the guys, except for Sanser still. Sanser still I did. I think he's a really good player. Nobody else that I really fall head over heels in love with, so I had trouble kind of sorting that group a little bit and figuring out who goes where.
Yeah, and I understand that. Again, my bigger problem right now is not knowing what scheme the Giants are going to play and what their new defensive coordinator wants out of his corners. That just really, that breaks my back, because if I knew for sure he wanted height, length, a big guy, TJ Tampa becomes much more attractive to me.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that.
And he didn't have those types of corners in Tennessee.
No. So we don't know, was that by choice, by design,
Right, correct.
by I got to make do with what I got? We don't know.
All right, 201-939-4513. I do think, by the way, there'll be defensive tackles there. I'm not sure we're going to have another defensive tackle pick between now and when the Giants pick at 47.
I don't think so. I think all the defensive tackles will be there.
You'll have a choice of Hall, Oruro, Fisk, Wingo, Chris Jenkins. Newton will go. I'm sorry, you're right.
He's going to go.
No, Newton will be gone.
But then the first 3 or 4 picks, he's done.
But the rest of the group, I think, will be there.
I agree totally.
So that could be an option. There could be an edge player there if you like Braswell or Nealand or Jonah Ellis.
I think they will all be there.
That's a conversation. I've cooled a little bit on picking a guard in the second round, Paul. I just don't know if it's a big enough need in order to flip those guys ahead of one of the corner safeties or defensive linemen.
I concur.
So that's kind of where I'm at, and those are the positions. And look, I think there'll be value at wide receiver. I just don't think you can pick a double up. And I got a Twitter question this morning about that, and I can't double up on a wide receiver. I can't do it.
I can't do it either. To me, we talk about the premium picks, and I use the word a little bit differently. I'm looking at premium picks as being your first 3 rounds. I think your first 3 rounds are premium picks because you want those guys to give you immediate snaps as rookies. If not starting, you want them at least to be rotational players. You want to get something now, unless you're stashing a guy.
Unless you're the Falcons.
Yeah, right? So, and I don't think the Giants are in a position to stash a guy. Okay, they need immediate production out of this rookie class, John. If they're going to make any waves this year, they need these guys to give them something.
Yeah.
Okay?
And they have holes that they need to fill. Joe Shane has been pretty clear about
Correct.
that.
Correct. So, to me, right now, if I can get the value to match the need at corner in round 2 and maybe running back in round 3,
I would wait on the running back till day 3.
I was hoping to go round 4 for a running back, but Audric Estime from Notre Dame is my guy. I really, really want him for the fit in the room. I've been told he's not getting to round 4. So I may have to take him in the third.
I'd say that's unlikely, but I'm okay with that. You have Devin Singletary, so I don't. If I don't get my favorite running back, I'll live with that.
That's fine.
All right. Before we get to the calls, can I pat myself on the back for a second?
Go.
Okay. So I did my own little mock draft, which I always do. I'll take a picture. I'll put it online a little bit later. But I got a direct hit on 10 guys, 10 out of 32, which I think is pretty good. I nailed the first 6 picks of the draft, which I was pretty proud of myself about. I had not necessarily because I had the Chargers trading out and the Vikings taking McCarthy. They took McCarthy just later. So
you can't take that.
No, but I lined up the player in the team, right?
Well, usually when people score their drafts...
No. If you get the player to the team right, it's correct.
They score them by position, by player to team, and then by player, position, and team.
Well, I don't care about position.
Slot.
If I get the player to the right team, I'm considering that a hit.
You're cheating.
No, it's not. How is that cheating?
Okay, it's all right.
If you get the right player to the right team, how is that cheating?
Because if you pick the guy to be with the team at 21 and they trade up, let's say for argument's sake, to 11 and they get him there.
Okay, how many did you get right, smarty pants?
I don't do a mock.
Well, so then don't tell me how to grade my mock draft then.
I'm telling you, I'm not telling you how you have to grade it. I'm telling you how when I've seen mock drafts graded, they put a whole list of like requirements and point systems. Like the Huddle Report. The Huddle Report does one of these things.
Oh, I don't look at any of that.
Okay, well, I'm just offering that to you as information.
So
that's all.
I got 10 of 32 players to the correct teams, which I was pretty happy with. And then I got 30 of the 32 players in the first round correct. So the only 2 guys I missed in the first round, I had Jackson Powers-Johnson in the first round, and I had Sua Mata'i in the first round. I did not have, who were the 2 guys I missed out on? Pearsall and Leggett were the 2 guys I did not have as first round picks that ended up going in the first round.
And both of those guys had like some first round whispers about them, but they were not considered locks.
Correct.
So I wouldn't feel bad about that.
Yeah, and then at one point in the first 24 picks of the draft, 22 of my top 23 players were off the board. So I felt pretty good about that too.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think we had a pretty good feel for exactly how this thing was going to go.
How did Tony do?
It's a good question. I think he had 29 of 32 players correct in the first round, if I'm not mistaken.
A lot of time was spent on those web shows. So my goodness, I'm glad it paid off.
It did. It was I think we had a lot of fun, and I think the people enjoyed listening to them. All right, let me bring up the call doc here. While I do that, folks, don't forget, go subscribe to our other podcast, Giants Huddle Podcast. That's where you can find our Giants draft show. Live last night, we went on right after the pick, talking about the Malik Nabers selection. Make sure you go check that out. Go subscribe, favorite podcast platform, Giants.com/podcast. Same for draft season. We had our round 1 recap, and they had a chance, we and Tony Pauline had a chance to break down everything that happened in the first round. And again, Giants.com, Giants mobile app, Giants.com/podcast. Make sure you check that out. Just search for draft season and Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platform. All right, ready to take some calls, Paulie Dots?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's go to Dan in Brooklyn. He's going to lead us off. Dan, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? So I think I speak for a lot of Giants fans when I say that after last night, I'm not mad. I am just disappointed. We definitely got better, and we got a really, really, really good player. I just think a lot of us were ready for the next chapter, and it kind of just feels like we've been getting this like really bad tasting medicine that we've had to been taking for the past 6 years. And
wait, Dan, hold on. It's not the past 6 years. 2 years ago was pretty good.
Did you not party when they went to Minnesota and won that road playoff game in front of your television?
No, Dan, I understand what you're saying. It hasn't been great, but you can't just make believe 2 years ago didn't happen either. That's also not fair.
I think 2 years of 6 is a little. 2 good years of 6 is a little. I don't like that batting average.
Oh, no, Dan, I understand. But this regime has been here for 2 years. So you're 1 out of 2 batting average with this regime.
Right. Don't hold previous scars against the new guys.
Right.
That's not fair.
Fair. And again, it is what it is. He's here. He's our quarterback. I just think we were all very energized for the next chapter.
Well, Dan, and if you want to believe reports, they tried hard to move up. So it's not like they didn't make the attempt. And based on the fact that no one else traded up for the other guy, tells you that maybe the rest of the league wasn't as hot on J.J. McCarthy as it was made to be seen before the draft started.
And for the record, I think Joe did exactly what he needed to do. You tried to trade up for the guy you wanted.
Exactly.
Didn't work. You didn't force it. I wasn't on the just take a quarterback camp. I'm just disappointed. That being said, going forward, I think a lot of people are going to probably call in and mention names like Spencer Rattler. That would be not. I don't think that'd be the best use of a pick because he's probably going to go in the third, fourth round. I was curious.
And heck, Dan, by the way, with all the other quarterbacks gone, he might go in the end of the second round for all we know.
He very well could because he's the next best of the bunch.
But I was curious about specifically Joe Milton. I guess my big question was, and I've done a little reading on college stats, and so I guess I'm just a little confused on why he is being talked about as like maybe 6th round undrafted free agent, and why Anthony Richardson went top 5. Like what? And just I'm asking because I'm not a scout, but like what scouting was, what makes one go top 5 and one go? Because to me, it's a lot of the same question marks, and so I'm wondering what made Josh or Anthony Richardson go top 5 versus later.
I understand the question, Dan, because I guess your point is that a lot of their traits are similar, right? Big arm, big kids, they can throw it deep, they can run it a little bit. I get that, but when you look at the quality of the active playing quarterback and you compare the two players, it's really night and day. Richardson was a much more accurate passer. He ran an offense a lot better. Just did quarterback things a lot better than Milton did, who still was really, really raw in a lot of those areas. That's how I would explain it, at least. Paul, do you agree with that?
Okay.
Yeah, I think the bigger point is timing, to be honest with you. Aside from the actual skill set or tape of the player, timing has a lot to do with where guys will move up and down on the board, because you have certain teams that are desperate for a certain thing, and if it happens to be that right time, they will overdraft him. It's just that simple.
Okay.
I mean, Michael Penix in the first round, are you kidding me? Absolutely no way.
Yeah,
Atlanta made the biggest faux pas of the first round. I mean, that was the biggest reach of all.
First time I heard you say faux pas, by the way. I never heard you say faux pas before.
Okay.
That's a new one.
I think if we're gonna take a dart at a quarterback, I think I'd rather do Milton in like the 6th or 5th or whatever than Rattler in the 2nd or 3rd or whatever he's going to go.
Look, if you want to throw you want to throw like a 6th round pick at a guy and you want to take a flyer on traits, I would have no problem with that. Whatever, that's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it, guys. Good show, good work.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for all the information, and let's hope this year is better than the past couple or the last one.
Yep, we agree, Dan. Absolutely. And look, and for the fans that wanted a quarterback, I totally get your disappointment, but I think it really came down to the conversations, Paul, that we've been having over the last couple months, is that you go after the guy you really like. If you can't get him, you don't just go to the next guy on your list. And you say, okay, well, if we didn't get him, we'll just take him instead.
That's right.
No, but I think people think of it like a fantasy football draft, right?
You think so?
And I think that's how some fans think about it. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
And they say, all right, well, we want a quarterback. The next best quarterback's this guy, so now we're going to convince ourselves that this guy's our future quarterback. And that's not how. With that might work for like wide receiver or running back. But quarterback is such a specific position that that's not how it works.
I'd like to give people a little more credit than that, but I suppose there are some who probably are naive. I suppose that does happen. I can't argue with you there. I suppose it does happen. But, the one thing to keep in mind here, too, is that when we all talk about guys who are on a list, right, and we say, okay, well, this is the next guy on the list, the problem is there are 32 teams, and every list is different.
Right. And and by the way, there are probably some fans that genuinely study it, and I don't mean to try to talk down to people. That was not my intention there. That they looked at and they really think J.J. McCarthy is going to be great. And for those people, you're disappointed.
Well, enough of media people told them he would be.
I totally understand your disappointment. When the Giants obviously did their breakdown, that was not their evaluation. And I'm going to, like I've said before we even started this process, and I said before any picks were made, I'm going to trust Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll's evaluation of these quarterbacks, because it's so hard for the NFL to do this with much more information than we have. For me to try to say that I know more about a quarterback than they do, I'm not going to go out on that ledge, because I'm going to look pretty stupid.
See, we'll never know the truth, because none of us get a chance to peek into all 32 of the NFL draft rooms at the draft headquarters. But if you could, I think all the people who understand the game would be willing to tell you that guys like McCarthy would have shown up in a bunch of different places all over those boards.
And he might have been a top 3 quarterback on some boards. That's possible.
Maybe somebody thought that.
The fact that I thought it was telling that nobody moved up to 5 or 6 to take him.
Oh, sure. Hey, to be honest with you, we heard Joe Schoen yesterday tell everybody that there was a team below them that did inquire, and he was like, no, I'm taking this pick at 6, and he took the receiver.
Well, remember, you
we
just don't
know.
want to drop down too far sometimes, and that's how it goes, right?
Exactly.
I don't know if that's why they didn't go down, but it could have been one of the reasons.
If somebody was so desperate for McCarthy, they would have made a huge pitch to the Giants at 6.
Right.
Now, whether or not Joe wanted to go down is a different question. The point is, he said he got one call, which means there wasn't a whole bank of phones ringing for teams wanting to go up and get J.J. McCarthy, right? If there were more than one team to do it, that phone would have been ringing more than once.
And you don't even necessarily know if the team that was calling up was calling about that play.
We don't.
You don't. It could have been for a receiver. It could have been for an offensive tackle. It could have been for Brock Bowers. Who knows? It could have been for any of those players.
I would only say that you could take the hints of the evidence and assume that McCarthy was not nearly rated as highly by most NFL teams as he was by the media. I think you could probably say that.
See, I'll disagree with that. If you look at the consensus board, he's the 22nd player on media boards.
Okay, let me correct.
The media was reporting that NFL front offices liked the player a lot more than the media analysts did. So those reports maybe ended up being wrong.
Yeah, to change my semantics, he was graded a lot lower than the mock drafts were putting him.
The media people had you believe.
Right.
Correct.
The
it was
media,
more the reporting what front offices thought than it was actual, like Daniel Jeremiah's evaluation or Mel Kiper's evaluation.
The mock drafts were elevating him tremendously. And then the other part about this
and I said it, by the way, if he got stuck in pick him at 11, 12, or 13, I think that's a fine pick. I think he went in a good spot for him. He's going to do well in Minnesota, I bet. He's got a good ecosystem. I think he's going to do well.
Here's the other part to this that we haven't even mentioned to this point.
He's a good player.
Smoke screens.
Well, that's
the other part. That's the other part.
And only ended up having one trade in the top 10, which I think we were all kind of surprised.
I mean, I'll give you this one moment.
And it was at 10, only a one-spot move with the Jets and the Broncos.
Interesting.
The Jets and the Vikings, pardon
interesting comment from Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport. He posted this, John, I want to say overnight, and I want to read it directly to you because I don't want to attribute it to anyone in the building.
Yeah, what do you got?
Or to you and me. But now I just got to find it. It's in regards to the Giants not going for a QB. And it's Raps. He almost kind of refuted his own report and did a backtrack on it. And I really want to read this because it's very important to what we're talking about. If you want to find another call, I'll get back to it if I can find it.
Okay. Take a look for it. I'll go to Mike in Scranton in the meantime. Mike, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live. How you doing, pal?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, man.
Hey, I just want to thank you guys. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for all the content. I mean, someone like me, people like me who don't follow college that closely, and I try to do all my research through content like you guys. It really helps. I appreciate it. I got more knowledge than ever looking at the draft and stuff, so I appreciate that.
We had fun. Thanks for your interest.
Yeah, and Mike, by the way, I hope it shows in what we do. We really enjoy it. And to be quite honest with you, during the regular season, Paul and I don't have much of a chance to watch a ton of college football either. It's just we don't have enough hours in the day. I'm watching every primetime game. The one day I have time to spend with my family is on Saturday, so I can't sit around and watch college football. So I'm cramming in January and February, so when I get to March and we get to the combine, we're talking to you guys, then we can kind of pass on what we've learned over those 2 months of work so that you guys can catch up too. But I hope it shows through that we really enjoy doing it. We love doing it, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it as well.
Oh, yeah. To me, it definitely shows, so I appreciate it. Second round, I don't think the Giants can go wrong. There's a couple, it looks like first-round grades with Dijon and Kool-Aid on the board. There's a bunch of corners they can take, like Paul said before. It depends on the flavor, that what type of style.
Yep.
They could trade up, they could stay, and like you say, stick and pick, or they could even trade down and maybe get an extra pick later in the draft to help them. So as long as they get the position of need, and I think it is going to be cornerback. However, if they went after like the Bishop, the kid, the safety from I think Utah, I wouldn't be disappointed there either. That kid, he looks, he acts, everything that Joe Shane says about a player, about the way they play, the way they carry themselves, he fits New York Giants football. It's just the way he carries himself and everything. But no matter who they pick, I'm going to be happy with, because they're going to do what's right for the team, and they're going to move on from there. And as long as it's a position of need and someone they feel that they could really develop and help out the team next year, how can we go wrong, right?
I think that's the thing that you got to keep in mind here when the Giants talk and other teams talk about best player available. Well, you're the Giants. Joe Shane says we're not one or two players away. Well, then best player available is the smartest way to go, because you've got multiple holes to fill.
And it becomes dangerous then to also trade assets to move up.
It really does.
Pick a position you already have a starter at, and then you have a bunch of holes around that player. So
tough. This is
Correct.
why Joe has given me the impression in his 2 years here that he really values draft picks, because he wants to be able to make a decision on a player without having to be boxed in and saying, well, I got to sit here and watch these guys come off the board and there's nothing I can do about it. He wants to be able to make picks.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I know we don't need, it's funny to say we don't need an offensive lineman now because of free agency, but that BB guy, man, he's a mountain of a man.
He's good.
I would love to be able to.
He's good.
Yeah, I would love to bring him in. I know we don't need him because of all everything we've done in the free agency, but for the future, oh man, he would definitely fit right in the future. But nonetheless, thanks guys for everything you do. I'll let you get some other calls. I appreciate it.
Be good.
Appreciate it. So, by the way, I did the math on it.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, we had 6 quarterbacks in round number 1. We had 7 wide receivers in round number 1.
9 offensive linemen,
And we had 9 offensive linemen in round number 1. So those 3 positions alone accounted for 22 of the 32 picks. Only 9 defensive players. You had the 5 edge rushers. I'm going to count Darius Robinson in that group, even though he's a little bit of a different player.
You
Byron Murphy was 6, Mitchell 7, Terry and Arnold 8, and Nate Wiggins was 9.
Yeah.
9 defense. First time ever, or fewest number of defensive players taken in the first round in the history of the draft.
I think they said the 14 offensive players in a row to start the draft was a record.
Oh,
right?
No, yeah, it wasn't even close. I think the previous record was like 7.
I mean, this is why my post this morning was, you go into the second round now, and there's a healthy crop of defensive players because these offensive guys pushed them all down the board, John.
Yeah.
So this is really good. If you're looking for some defense, whether it be cornerback, whether it be defensive tackle, if you feel like you want to take a safety, fine. Point is, there's going to be some fruit here. This is a good round to try to collect somebody there. The item by rap sheet, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network.
Call him by his full name, not by his Twitter handle.
Well, hey, in case people want to see it,
No,
they want to go. They want to go back and
understand.
look at it. Came up at 8:55 last night. He wrote, "The Giants bluffed quarterback at number 6. Instead, they opted for a weapon for Daniel Jones." It was my understanding.
Now, again, that's just a short line. There's a whole video
Right.
with it.
There isn't. Well, that's why I tell people they could go to his
gives more
Twitter feed and look
context.
at it.
Correct, yeah.
All right, because there's a whole thing here. I think you can assume that the Giants did due diligence and made the call to the Pats, but as we had also talked about, I think it started back at the Combine, John. The price was going to be outrageous. So even if you had any thoughts of maybe trying to talk deal, as soon as you found out that the price was insane, you were not going to have that conversation.
I feel more comfortable saying this today, talking to somebody that talks to other people, and I won't give the details on it, but apparently for at least one team, they were asking for 3 first-round picks plus a Pro Bowl player.
Like I said, too expensive. Much too expensive for the Giants to even seriously consider for 2 seconds. Obviously. And so, what did they do? They stood pat at 6, and they took the receiver, which, quite frankly, made the most sense and the most logic all along.
All right, back to the phones. Al in Odessa. I'm hoping that's Odessa, Texas, Al.
No, not Odessa, Texas, please, no. Odessa, Florida.
Oh, Odessa, Florida. I was going to say, because there's another Odessa that's very dangerous right now. I was hoping you weren't in that Odessa.
I'm glad you didn't say Odessa Turner. And you old-time Giants fans know who I mean.
No, absolutely not. No, I bleed blue all day and not trying to go into enemy territory. I just want to say thank you for taking my call. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Cool.
I love you guys.
Thank you, Al.
And appreciate it. And look, I've been listening to you guys since the beginning. I've been a Giants fan since I was before I think it was in diapers. And I'm not going to sit here and play couch coach or pocket GM and what they did or what they do.
No, you can, man. You're a fan. Have fun with it. That's okay. That's why we're here.
I do have.
There's no wrong answer for at least 3 years, right, John?
Exactly. Correct.
I have Philly family members that that I have fun with, and that's enough.
Oh man, they don't live in Philadelphia, do they?
No, they're
okay.
Down there, so they're closer to me now. I can get with them. So absolutely, but yeah, I really love the pick. I'm not going to call him the second coming of anybody, but I do love the pick. I had my doubts on Odunze, the tall guy, but not as fast. And yeah, you could say that Nabers is a slot guy, but he's fast. He's really fast. He creates separation.
He can do both, Al. He can play outside and inside.
Yeah.
He can do it. He's so good. He can do whatever the hell you want him to do. Let's be honest, all right?
Absolutely, no doubt. And you pair him back there with one of my favorites, Highlight Hyatt. And you got 2 guys that you need to cover. You can't cover everybody. You can't double cover everybody. You really can't.
Correct.
So those guys, they're going to take the top off of everything. And I love it. Yes, we lost a weapon in Barkley. I'm glad that he went to go get his bag, but he didn't have to go to Philly to do it.
I hear you.
Philly was the only team willing to pay him that much money to do it.
That's the problem. When only one team's got the bag, you got to go to the team with the bag, man.
Gotta go to the bag. Gotta go get the bag.
That's it.
I can't blame him for that. So yeah, it's gonna be fun watching this year. I'm really looking forward to it. But look, Joe and Brian, they do a phenomenal job in recognizing that these are not numbers. These are players. These are human beings that are out there putting their health, their livelihood on the line for one team, whichever team that is. Glad that we got it. I hope that we can go ahead and move forward. And look, you guys do you guys are the only ones that I really listen to. I don't go into those mock drafts. I know, Paul, you don't like this fantasy thing. I do it for fun. I don't pay for it. I do it for fun. Just, as a kick. But to me, it's all about what you get to do between the lines. And these guys, they have an honest squad this year. And Joe and Brian and his staff, all the guys, they're going to do what they need to do to put the Giants first. So, bottom line, love your content.
Thank you, Al.
You guys, from Howard, JC, all you guys. You guys do a great job. You keep me off the media. You really do. I don't need to listen to those guys. And I'm curious to know how many. You said you got 30 out of 32 going in the first round. John?
Players of the players that got drafted in the first round in my mock, I had 30 of 32 players. Correct, which
That's
is pretty
awesome.
good.
How many did DJ get?
I don't know. I honestly haven't checked.
Maybe you could take his job.
He said DJ Jeremiah.
And
again,
Jeremiah.
thank you, Al. Appreciate the call again. I didn't have the right guys going to the right teams in all those situations, but 30 out of 32 players, I'll take it. It's not too shabby.
You know, it's funny. We've had in the last 2 months, John, at least my recollection, more longtime listeners, first-time callers than I can remember.
I feel like we've had a lot of them, too.
A lot of them have really come out of the woodwork
Last night
this
especially.
offseason.
Well, I think the good thing when we do shows at night and stuff, a lot of people are working during the day, obviously.
Yeah.
So they're listeners. They listen on the podcast. They don't have time to call in. So
Could be.
And again, just a reminder, folks, we're going to be live again tonight. This is a good time to remind people of
Yes,
that.
please do.
So make sure you tune in. We'll be going on when the Giants make their pick in round number 2. And then remember, because of the trade, there's only about 20 or so picks between the Giants pick at 47 and the Giants pick at 70.
Well, 23.
Correct. So we're going to try to squeeze in and stay on we're going to go a full hour, and if we have to stretch a couple minutes, maybe we'll try to stretch to get that second pick in while we're live. We'll see how that goes. So just make sure you tune in time with the Giants make their second round pick. We're going to take a lot of your phone calls and talk about it.
And tomorrow.
And, of course, yes, we'll be live at noon at the start of the draft on day 3. We'll go through the Giants' 4th-round pick, and then we'll probably just take calls until you guys don't want to call and talk to us anymore. We'll say goodbye. So make sure you tune into all that.
Good chance for those of you who work.
Yes.
On Saturday, give us a ring.
Back to the phones. Anthony in New Jersey is up next. Hi, Ant.
Hey, guys. 2 quick questions before my main question.
Yeah.
First off, is this, like a quarterback fervor stuff going on, the Eli Manning effect, you think, of having him for 15 years? Cause,
you mean in terms of Giant fans wanting a quarterback?
Yeah, because, like, I don't remember it being like this, before Eli, when the days of, like, Danny Cannell and certain guys, yeah. Like,
Anthony, I think there was a group of quarterback. I think there were a group of Giant fans, and I was old enough to remember this. After Phil Simms retired and until they got Kerry Collins, there was a lot of quarterback clamoring in the Dave Brown, Ken Graham, Danny Cannell years.
It was kind of rough.
Yeah. And look, Anthony,
Okay,
I get it.
and-
Look, the quickest route to a Super Bowl in the NFL is to get a star quarterback on a rookie contract. It's the easiest way to do it. So I get fans trying to hunt that. And by the way, I think the Giants as an organization understand that too. They get that. But the key is not just quarterback on a rookie contract. It's that first word that I used. Star quarterback on a rookie contract. So you got to make sure and think that guy's going to be a star if you want to go down that path.
You know, what you have to remember is that the climate, whether it's the media or the fans, the climate has reached a fever pitch because of 24-hour news cycles. Social media. The fact that, the draft was on how many different channels last night? 4 channels?
4 different. You had ABC, you had ESPN, you had NFL Network, and then you had the Pat McAfee.
I mean, you got presidential conventions that are on 5 channels, right?
You're right.
I mean, this is the NFL draft. Don't get me wrong, folks. The NFL's a religion to me. But 4 channels at once?
It's crazy.
I mean, this is what it's become. They have turned the broiler up to totally max in terms of the interest and the accessibility of things with the NFL, and it's wonderful because the NFL's healthy and thriving, and that's really great. But the downside to it, as Parcells used to say all the time, the media a bunch of communists. Well, well, that's the way Bill felt about it, because he felt that the distractions that the outside stuff causes, specifically from the media, is going to impact your football team, and you got to keep that stuff outside the walls. Well, to do that now is almost impossible.
What are your other 2 questions, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree with you guys with that. The second quick question is, how frustrating are the damn Eagles? I mean, it's like,
Mitchell fell into their laps.
They got to sit there and pick the top
Every
corner in the
draft.
draft at 20, whatever they were, at 21. I mean, 22, it's ridiculous.
You know,
I can't even.
every draft, and it happens in the late rounds too. Like it's so
Ridiculous.
frustrating.
Mitchell, what would you say, John? Easily top 15 player?
I have Mitchell
right?
as the 14th player on my board.
How in the world does he drop like a stone into the Eagles' lap? When that pick came up, John and I were sitting at the in the other room, and we're looking at it. We're like, Okay, it's either corner or offensive lineman. Oh, wait a minute. Mitchell's still on the board. They're taking Mitchell. What are you going to do? He never should have been there. Never should have been there.
He was actually a guy that I was targeting on a trade back, and I'm happy with Nabers. You know, like I think he's going to be special, and I know it's hard to pass on a guy like that. You know, but with all the holes that we have in the team, I thought, you know, maybe trading back, getting Mitchell, and then, you know, having some decent wide receivers in the second round was a good option, although two guys that I liked, and Pearsall and Leggett, ended up going first round, so I feel even better about this Nabers pick now.
Joe Shane said they only took one call from somebody below. We don't know how far it was.
No.
And we don't know what the offer was, but they only had one call to move down.
And we all do also know that they had 15 first-round grades on their board, too.
Which Joe also told Mike Eisen, the senior writer here at Giants.com 2 days ago. So what does that tell you? Was that call beyond 15? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
I would assume it was the Vikings at 11, and I would have been happy taking Mitchell at 11 there.
Well, Joe decided he was taking the receiver that they had pinned on the board, and that was it.
Hey, look, and look, Nabers was the last guy that I had as quote-unquote blue-chip players on my board. I had 6 guys. I had Williams, May, Daniels, Harrison Jr., Alton, Nabers as my quote-unquote blue players, and he was the last one left, so I totally understand why they would do that.
Yeah, me too. It's tough to pass on blue chippers. So now, with some decent corners, to me, Kool-Aid and Cooper DeJean are not first-round players to me, but in the second round, they're very attractive. What do you think we would have to give up to move up?
It's a good question. I have DeJean, just for the record, as the 27th player on my board, and I have McKinstry as the 28th. Not first-round grades on those two, but I have like first, second-round kind of hybrid grades. Let me bring up the trade chart here, Paul.
Pure skills, I think McKinstry is the best corner right now. Pure skills. But again, does he fit? Does he fit what it is that you're going to do with him?
All right.
That's the question. I don't think. How are the Giants going to be able to get from 47 up to the top?
I'll tell you. So if you want to move up to where Buffalo's picking it 33, that's 150 points right there in terms of draft capital. So again, this is off the Jimmy Johnson chart. People use different charts now. The Giants' third-round pick is worth 240 points. So that's more than enough. If you want to if you want to move up that far, maybe you can get a fourth-round pick back. So you would trade, let's say, I'll do the math here because the Bills picked up a lot of picks in their various trades that they made. So and again, the price gets cheaper as you move further back, obviously, but this is the most expensive one. So if you're moving from 47 to 33, you have to make up 110 points. So let's say you send your pick at 70, that's 240 points. You get back the Bills selection at, did they get a fourth-round pick, the Bills? They do not. Do they have a pick? And you swap. Here's what you do. You would swap. So the Giants pick at 70. The Bills select at 95. So they're both third-round picks. So you would swap those two picks. So you would send the Bills 47 and 70. You would get back 33 and 95. That's not bad.
I mean, that's not bad.
That's reasonable.
That's not bad. And and the points almost work out perfectly with that.
That's reasonable. That's
That's not bad.
I would consider that.
Last question. I'll take it off the air.
Yeah.
What guys? I don't know if you still have any guys on the board with first round grades. Like what guys are still left that you would consider moving up for?
The guys that I have on my board that I would consider good enough to move up for would be Jackson Powers Johnson, but again, I don't think that's necessarily a need for the Giants.
Well, there's the concussion thing that we were talking about yesterday, too.
Correct. So who knows about that? But again, he's just a guy I think is good enough on the tape.
Newton's good enough.
DeJean and McKinstry is good enough. Jerzon Newton is good enough.
McKinstry's good enough. I totally agree with that.
Again, Sua Mata'ia and A.D. Mitchell, I think talent-wise are good enough, but there's apparently off-the-field stuff with those two guys and personality stuff that some people might be sour on. Those are the only guys for me that I don't think I would move up for Sanser still. I don't think I'd move up for Jaden Hicks. Those would be the guys. It would be McKinstry, DeJean, and Newton. Based on Giant needs and the players that are left, those are the three guys I would be willing to move up to grab. Otherwise, I would just sit and pick.
Yeah, and the only other guy that I wrote down to somebody this morning, and I was not doing this for Giants, was Ladd McConkey. I think if somebody wanted a receiver, I could see them moving up for him.
I have McConkey and Troy Franklin as my two receivers.
I like Franklin, but I think people, from the conversations I've had, people view McConkey a little higher.
I have Franklin and McConkey back-to-back as the 34th and 35th players on the board.
So somebody might want to go up.
Yeah, but we were talking Giants specifically.
Giants,
just don't think
you're not going up for McConkey. No,
so I think based on value and need, it would be Newton, DeJean, and McKinstry would be the three guys that I would consider moving up for. And look, Joe Shane's been aggressive in these spots before, so that would not shock me if he really likes one of these guys. And according to reports, McKinstry was one of their 30 visits to the facility here. Again, if those reports are right, I'm not confirming them. I'm saying if they're correct. So I think those are interesting names to throw out there.
I'll throw an addendum to what you just said, though, John, and Cole, appreciate your patience.
He also has a Jones fracture that he's recovering from, too,
Yes.
McKinstry, just so fans understand
Yes.
that. He's not going to be ready to go until training camp at the earliest.
Correct. I would not, if I were Joe Shane, I would not do it unless it was a flip-flop and I got the same number of picks back that I was dealing. I do not want to have fewer picks in these top 4 rounds.
Here's another one, by the way. You want to, same thing, Cardinals at 35,
Okay.
Paul. They also have a third-round pick at 90, so that would be the same deal. You would swap 90 and 70, and the Giants move up from 47 to 35.
Okay, again, 2 for 2. I could do that.
And
I could figure out a way to do that.
And the point totals on those work out for whatever that's worth. So,
okay.
those are some options. I mean, if you need to give up your 6th-round pick to sweeten the pot.
Fine.
I don't care about the 6th-round pick. Take it.
Fine.
It means we work less on Saturday. Cool, I'm down. Let's do it. But
Pearson wants to go home early tomorrow.
yeah, Pearson's like, can we package the 5th and 6th round picks to move up, please?
He wants to give the rest of the draft for like a third next year.
Yeah, absolutely. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Jason in Virginia. Jason, you're up next. How you doing, man?
Hey, great. Actually, the last call kind of segued in nicely. I wanted to call to climb up on a stump, bang my fist on the table a little bit to say I think we should trade up and get Cooper DeJean. Not only do I feel like his football acumen just shows up on tape and in his highlights, every interception that he makes, as crazy as he was in the right spot. It wasn't like he had to make a big athletic play.
And by the way, he played so much zone defense at Iowa based on the type of system that Shane Bowen runs, Jason. I think he would fit in wonderfully. You can use him as kind of a safety if you want to. The Giants also have a need there. So I agree. I think based on the type of system the Giants run, I would be more of a DeJean guy than a McKinstry guy as well. Oh, based on the system that Bowen has run in the past, I would be more of a DeJean guy than a McKinstry guy.
We got to put that asterisk on everything that we talk about with the system. We just don't know.
Right. And the other thing, too, is special team contributor. Punt return guy, plays coverage.
Sure.
It's like you're getting 3 players in one.
Understood.
And trust me, and he's over 200 pounds. You could put him in that kickoff return spot, too.
Oh, yeah. He's physical. He's got some strength to him. Bulk, some sturdiness, as I like to say.
Tackling as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he is a good football player, Jason.
I don't think there's any way he gets to them at 47, though.
No, he said he's to trade up. He knows.
Yeah, you'd have to move up to get him.
Yeah. But I think he's worth it just from all the areas he could impact. I mean, he impacts your specials, he impacts your defense, obviously, and I just think, and I love his tackling. I love a guy who plays defensive back who, I'm confident if the guy does catch a ball, he's going down. It's not going to be oops and slips and anything like that.
Jason, appreciate the call, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's pretty funny. So Judy Batiste is doing a live hit outside the facility right now, and it's pretty obvious that Malik Nabers just pulled up in a van.
Indeed he did.
All the cameras are out there waiting for him to get out of the thing.
Either that or Coach Dable just went out to greet a driver.
She knows.
There you go, Judy.
And
yeah,
Judy,
you saw.
Judy's wearing her Giants blue today, too. That is some royal Giants blue she's rocking.
Very impressive.
She's looking. She knows. I think she just noticed it.
I think the camera guy just told her.
It's pretty funny.
Very impressive.
Love Dave with the boom pole in the back.
Yeah,
I see him.
Yeah, Mancini's back there. You can see all our Giants production people getting ready to. And then we're gonna have we're gonna have a Malik Nabers press conference here pretty soon. So
Yep.
stay tuned to it's not gonna be live, but we'll get it up on the YouTube channel, on the website whenever it's done. We were hoping we might have a chance to get Nabers on.
I know.
Unfortunately, he flew into an airport that's further away than we would like it. I think he hit some traffic and he got here later than we thought he would.
Bingo.
So that ended up not working out. But we were excited to try to have him. It just it didn't work from a timing perspective, which is fine. You can go check out Madeline Burke's interview with him on all the Giants platforms from Detroit last night. Tom in Florida is up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hey, Tom Pearson, you can take one more, and then we'll say goodbye. Tom, what's going on?
Oh, what's going on? I'll tell you what, I was so happy last night when they picked Neighbors, it wasn't funny.
That's great.
And I'll tell you why. For the last couple of weeks, it's been, well, we got to have a quarterback.
Not on this show. Not on this show. You haven't heard that.
Hey, I think we've given all the
I didn't
viewpoints
say it.
very well.
I
I think we've made the argument both ways very well.
Well, we've allowed people to express it, but I don't think any of us on the panel was favoring that.
You know, I felt very strongly about Drake May.
Well, so did I, but I didn't feel enough to make a deal for him.
I mean, why would you? Never mind. I don't want to go into it.
Don't worry about it.
You got who you wanted. You got who I wanted. That's most important.
There you go.
and it was just my little heart was going pitter patter until the name came up.
Yeah, I was worried. Honestly, I was worried, Tom. I thought there was a chance the Chargers might take him because they had such a big need at a wide receiver. I did not think that was impossible.
You know, the thing that surprised me was Alt going at 4. Is that where he went?
No, he went at 5. He went at 5 to the Chargers.
Yeah.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
Alt went at 5. That surprised me.
See, that was my lock. I thought Harbaugh all along was going to go offensive line.
I thought he was going to trade down, but you know what? He might not have gotten a deal that he wanted to move down. So
we don't know.
You know, you don't always get what you want, except for last night, and that's okay.
You got anything else for us, Tom?
What?
You got anything else for us?
Do I have what?
Do you have anything else you want to say, Tom, before we say goodbye?
Oh, I have lots of things I want to say, but you don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Oh, Tom, this is a great call.
At least he's self-aware. I'll give him credit for that.
All I know is that I would like to see a big road grader guard taken somewhere soon to solidify the offensive line. And then I will be really happy.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate the call.
I hope you're listening off the air, Tom. The only problem with doing that, based off what the Giants have done to this point, is that they've overloaded the offensive line room, whether
with
it's
numbers.
Stinney, Runyon, the 2 young kids coming back from North Carolina who were injured. We know that they signed the Minnesota backup center who can play interior line. Schlotman. We know that the Raiders' right tackle may wind up being a guard.
Illuminor.
Or
maybe he's the tackle and Neil's the
guard.
guard.
Or maybe he's the tackle. We don't know. The bodies.
And Stinney. I don't know if you
mentioned
Stinney. I'm sorry.
The bodies that they have in that room, it's stuffed right now, and they devoted some resources to it. So now, I'm not saying that you don't want to upgrade. You guys know me forever. I'm always looking to upgrade offensive line.
Drafting offensive line is never a bad idea.
No, it's never a bad idea. The problem becomes with the limited resources you had this offseason, and you've already devoted so much of them to that room, it piling on at this point when you have other needs doesn't make a ton of sense.
I put corner at the top of the needs list.
I think so.
With a big accent mark. And only because, and I think someone made this point the other day. I think it might have been Lance. And he said there are a lot more, or it might have been SciTech yesterday, actually, that if you look at the free agent market, there are still safeties to be had.
Yeah.
So if you get out of this draft and we want a veteran safety here to compete with Dane Belton, to compete with Jalen Mills, you can find one of those guys.
Yeah.
You know what? There aren't a lot of left in the free agent market. Cornerbacks.
There usually aren't.
Correct.
And the guys who are usually kind of long in the tooth.
And that's why I think corner is a really big. Heck, if they drafted 2 corners in the next 2 days, it wouldn't shock me.
And I wouldn't be disappointed either.
Me neither. All right, let's wrap it up with Jason in New Jersey. Jason,
never have enough.
what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's going on?
So I would like to say, I like to pick Malik Nabers at 6.
You sound very excited about it, Jason.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's not bad.
He was up late, John.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think that we could have traded back with the Vikings, get some picks.
But we don't know if that's the team that made the call. So just try to understand that. We just don't know.
Right.
That's very true.
And you also don't know if the offer was for picks this year either.
That's true too.
Right.
It could have been picks for next year. Who knows?
You just don't know. But we do know there was one call, and that's what Joe Shane told us. One team called him, and that's it. So there wasn't a lot of people banging down the door to move up to 6.
Right. I mean, well, yeah.
Which, by the way, hurts your leverage.
But yeah, that's very true. But Malik Nabers, he's fast. It's like kind of like an Odell type of prototype. You know what I'm saying? He ran a 4.38.
Yep.
I believe, something like that.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm happy with the pick. Or at least we get that wide receiver room addressed. I think we need to make some moves in the second, third rounds. Try to draft a running back. I'd say offensive lineman, just to have offensive lineman in the later round. You know what I mean? Because we need to beef up that offensive line, because last year that offensive line was, and every week it was a different lineup. Injuries. It's unfortunate, But I'm hoping and praying we have a decent year in 2024 and not be a laughing stock of NFL with my friends. It's like, oh, you're still a Giants fan, I'm still going to rep the Giants until I die,
There you go.
I appreciate the call, my friend.
Keep
Good
the
stuff,
wheel
Jason.
turning. Keep the wheel turning.
All right, so I think we got our takes for tonight.
That's it.
And Paul, you're funny. You're talking about leverage real quick. Like, for example, I was listening to they were talking about the Cowboys. They traded down later in this draft, still got Tyler Guyton. They said they had 4 teams on hold trying to trade up for that pick.
They did.
That's how you get a top pick in the 3rd round. And that's what we were talking about this whole process, right? You had the Vikings, Raiders, and Broncos all looking for a quarterback, but I guess the right guy didn't fall, so you didn't get that competition of all 3 of those teams looking to move up for a quarterback. You need a player, and the Cowboys, Terry Arnold was there, right? Who I had as a top 16 player on my board, and he's sitting there, and that motivated teams to move up to go get that individual player, which is what ultimately allows you to get good value back for your pick.
Well, we don't know how many people were in touch with the Patriots at 3 or not, but their conviction.
Reports are that,
all right,
the reports say it was the Vikings and the Giants. That's what the reports say. Who knows if they're true?
And that was only in the last 2 days. We don't know if there was any contact earlier.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point being, the Patriots said to themselves, well, there's at least 2 people who contacted us. Here's our price. And you know what? We really want to take Drake May. And so we're going to outprice the deal. And if someone wants to give us the keys to their car and Fort Knox, fine. But we're perfectly thrilled taking the guy we really want.
There are ways that you make your trade demands so extensive to the point that you're basically saying, I don't want to make a trade.
Right.
Which seems to be what the Patriots
you
did.
make
Yes.
the deal virtually impossible to purchase.
Yes.
There you go.
For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Again, reminder, we'll be on live tonight with the Giants Draft Show, presented by Crestron, when the Giants make their pick in round number 2 for an hour, taking your calls right here at 201-939-4513. On Giants season tickets, Giants.com/tickets, and you can check out all our video content on the Giants TV app. You can find it on all your digital TV programs, smart TVs, Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV.
I have a smart TV.
Did
Did you know that?
Check it out.
I have 3.
Do you know how to use them?
Yeah. They're really cool.
We'll see you tonight, everybody.
Bye.